Alerts get a 15-minute heads up when it's time to head in. Another text alert when you're next in line. Sport Clips, it's good to be a guy. Just a few minutes ago, we had David Kaplan, our expert, on from Chicago, from our great station there, ESPN 1000, and he asked him, hey, how about going with Chuck Pagano, currently the Bears defensive coordinator, if and when they do fire Matt Nagy? And one of the things that David Kaplan simply said was, can't go to Pagano, great guy, good coach, can't go to him because Chicago needs a fresh start. They don't need a retread. And in some ways, Key, you're sort of saying the same for the Jets. If and when it's a fait accompli that they're going to fire Adam Gase, obviously at some point, the day after firing Gregg Williams, we'll wait to see when that official day comes. But you also think there's a lot of experienced coaches out there, a lot of coaches that could rein in this organization that needs so much help, but you're saying the retread option is the incorrect option.
Well, so retreads to me are guys that failed, and then you still hiring them.
A third crack.
Like a third crack at it, or a first crack that miserably failed,
like
and
Bill
then
O'Brien.
you're still giving him a Pat Sherman. You're still giving him another opportunity,
Right.
Like Bill O'Brien.
No, that's not. No, because Bill O'Brien was mildly successful with the Penn State, mildly successful with Houston. He allowed the two-headed thing to get in his way, general manager, head coach. So I wouldn't necessarily call him a retread.
Like
Retreads are like a Dick Geron. That's like,
right.
Come on. Like Buffalo, then Chicago. Like, no. A guy that stands out to me, and I said this before in months ago, a guy that's standing on the sidelines that's not a retread because he was a one-stop guy would be a Bill Cowher. Mm-hmm. He successful. He won big in Pittsburgh. He won a Super Bowl. He's been out of the game 15 years, I think. I think that's the number.
It's a long time, man.
It sounds like a long time, right? But I can point to guys like Dick Vermeil. You know, he last stop was the Philadelphia Eagles, and then he went to the Rams at one, then went to Kansas City and tried to turn that around. Or you look at John Gruden. He was out the game 10, 11 years. You know, there are coaches that have done this, and I don't think Bill Cowher is so far removed from society and reality that he's a dinosaur. We're not dealing with a coach that he can't figure it out. Hey, why does that guy have an earring in? What are all these tattoos? He's not, I'm saying he's not so far removed from that. He's still around. He between his home in North Carolina and his residence in the New York State, he's still, he sees it all. He's not oblivious to what's going on. And I think for the Jets, somebody like that would be a home run because you could sell that to the fan base. You could sell Super Bowl winning coach. Bill Parcells, you could sell those sort of things. I remember when we got Bill, I got drafted. They were 2-14. They selected me as the number one guy. The next year, that year we went 1-15. Bill comes from the New England Patriots with the first pick overall to play with. He could draft Peyton Manning. I was already on the team. Some people think that he passed Peyton Manning up to draft me. No, I was already there. So let's get that corrected. And then when you look at the opportunity to draft Peyton Manning, he decided he didn't want Peyton. He wanted to do some other things with the pick. We went from 2-14, 1-15, 9-7 to an AFC Championship game. Wow. So when you start to look at that pedigree with those skins on the wall means something. Yes, we can go for the young, hot Eric Bieniemy types. There's no question about it, and do well with that. But I think, though, just from what the organization probably needs is somebody like that.
If you are going to take Trevor Lawrence, do you want a coach that's been out of the game that long? I'm not saying that he can't do it, and he's more of a defensive-minded coach, or do you want somebody that comes in and offensively works hand in hand with your quarterback to change the dynamic of the system?
One thing I could say, Jay, great coaches know who to hire. It's all about your assistants.
They're the CEO. You're right.
Right? I don't need, just because I'm a defensive-minded coach doesn't mean that I can't get Jay Will to run my offense and put the offensive plays together, and I can peek my head in here and there. The problem with a lot of coaches is they get hired and they try to do too much. They don't know how to delegate. You got to be able to hire the right people. If I'm Joe Douglas, the general manager, I'm going to help you put your staff together. I'm going to help you do that now. I'm not just going to let you come in and start hiring all your homeboys. No, we're going to have some conversations about some of the real innovative guys and the bright minds in the sport to make sure that we build a competent staff that understands the culture that we're trying to create.
We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. For those not familiar with Cowher, the younger listeners, he's 63 years old, hasn't coached in the NFL since 2006. On the way, who will coach the Jets next? The guys weighed in. Our insider for Chicago, I don't know. Superlatives are one thing. What's the polar opposite? That's probably the best way to describe the Bears. For more, let's go to Chicago. Check in with David Kaplan.
Cap, my guy.
Host of Cap and Jay Hood on ESPN Chicago. Jay's guy from his time there with the Bulls. He joins us this morning on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Brought to you by Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. And, of course, we are presented by Progressive Insurance. Cap, there has been so much talk, I'm sure, on your show and elsewhere about what has happened this year with the quarterback situation, the back and forth between Trubisky and Foles. I just want to cut to the chase. What's going to happen a year from now at this position?
Well, I can't believe that Nick Foles won't be in Chicago as a backup. You restructured the deal to get him $8 million a year per year for 3 years. I mean, he's the ultimate backup. He's just not very good as a starter. And then when you add in a really bad offensive line, bad play calling, inability to run the football, unwillingness when the run's working to stick with the run. I mean, all of it. I think Nick Foles will be here as a backup. I just think they're going to have to clean out the GM, the head coach, and then make a decision on what they're going to do, who's their starting quarterback next year. For me, I don't believe they're going to be that good next year, so I'd rather see them start to finally address the offensive line with their top pick.
Well, you sort of answered the question for me by saying that they need to clean out the general manager and the head coach. So I'm going to move on from that. Let's assume that the head coach is no longer – is Chuck Pagano the guy on the sidelines waiting in the wings considering that the defense?
No. No chance. They have to get a fresh start. And see, you played in the league. When you do a coaching search, you go, we have to hire an offensive coach. No, you actually don't. Hire the right head coach. The way they do things up here is so backwards that when they hired Matt Nagy, got to be an offensive coach. Well, last I looked, John Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in the league. He was a special teams coach. The one time we won a Super Bowl, Mike Ditka came here from being a special teams coach. The best coach in the history of the world is Bill Belichick. Last I checked, he was a defensive coordinator. Bring the right guy here who can run whatever it is you want to run, put the right people around him, and draft and develop players. But the last time we really, really rebuilt and won, Jim Finks was the guy they stole from Minnesota, and he drafted Ted Albrecht and Dennis Lick and Jim Covert and Dan Hampton. He said, I'm building the lines before I get the quarterback. And then 6 years later, they finally stumbled into Jim McMahon, and they won. They have not put enough into their O-line. They got no one to blame but themselves.
Well, why not? Why not Chuck Pagano? You didn't elaborate on that. You said no.
The defense has regressed, and I just think this is a massive fan base. They are really, really ticked off, and I think they're going to need a fresh start, somebody who isn't connected with the Bears. I'm sure Chuck's a wonderful guy, but I just don't see any scenario where he would be the guy. I think they're going to launch a search, and I think they need to go get a president of football operations and then bring in a really good GM. Like Louis Riddick should be part of that management.
Cap, it's Jay Will. What's up, brother? How are you?
What's up, my guy?
Doing good, man. Hey, where the heck is Ryan Pace? Is he missing in action? I haven't heard anything from Ryan Pace in a long time.
So for whatever reason, I could text when he was still with us. He just left. But I could text Theo Epstein in the middle of an 8-game losing streak. Hey, man, we need you on tomorrow. Team's really struggling. No problem. What time? Do the same thing with Rick Hahn with the White Sox. We just had Arturis on from the Bulls. We had Stan Bowman on from the Blackhawks. And for whatever reason, and I have a good relationship with Ryan Pace, for whatever reason, he will not talk unless it's on the team-sponsored coaches show with the voice of the team. He will not answer the hard questions. I don't understand it, but that's the way he does it.
Last thing for you, David Kaplan joining us from Chicago, the co-host of Cap and Hood. Dick Allen died yesterday. I think for many fans that are too young, they may not even know who that is. They may